Yeah. I just would love to do just kind of a monthly overview of like the most outstanding transits of October because I do feel like this month especially is definitely pretty heavy hitting. I mean, I think the next like 3 months, the whole like rest of the
Yeah.
year is
So
like
yeah, no,
pretty
from now on,
wild.
yeah, for the next year or two.
And for anyone who does listen to this, back to our earlier point of like maybe this can help them navigate
Yes.
these really rough waters that we are all in this big giant ship together, just like holding on for dear life. But welcome to the Art of Woo podcast with your host, Lee Erickson. They'll
Yes.
help us.
So let me throw some out, and then we'll just.
Sure.
But the one that we've talked about, have talked about before, just to list like some of the more important ones, is Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the middle of the
Yes.
significance of Pluto going direct
Mm-hmm.
on Saturday. Is
Mm-hmm.
that means that it's reached that point. This
Yeah.
short,
What
so
we were just talking about with the, yeah,
it's
that
stopping.
all of that energy yeah,
Yes.
and changing.
And you mentioned in your
October
text that
11th.
that the Pluto return of the United States. So this is
Yeah.
so the real Pluto return of the United States, with the exact one, it's 2733. I know it because I was tracking it very closely. I know the exact degree of that's July.
The
The
July
degree
4th,
of
right.
Pluto in the United States birth chart of July 4th, 1776 is 27 degrees, 33 minutes of Capricorn.
Was that this summer? This already
No, no,
passed?
no. It was
No,
like
this is
2 years
coming.
ago when it was exact.
Oh, 2 years. Okay, okay.
2 years ago
But
because
we're still definitely in that.
but
I
it's
mean,
but it
that's why this last 4 years have just felt exceptionally like just insane.
that and transformational. So like when I
Yeah.
describe that for people, I was like, if you the simple way of describing this is a return is
Hmm.
similar to your birthday. Your birthday is your
Yep.
solar return.
Yeah.
And a return of a planet is when a planet is coming back to its original place to start a new cycle. So it's
Yes.
reforming and
New.
resetting itself.
Yeah. And on top of that, it's Pluto, which that's like literally Pluto's job.
That's it.
I mean, it's all about transformation.
Yes. And in particular,
And
go
yeah.
ahead. No, no, please. I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, it's fine. I was just going to say, and just, it's just so interesting too how, I mean, again, yeah, Pluto's job is to basically make us grow. It's all about transformation. I mean, it's the ruler of the underworld as well. So it's also really interesting how it's been digging up all of this dirt. It's
Yes.
just literally excavating all of these things that have been going on behind the scenes.
Yes.
Um, a
I
lot
would
of
say
dark
yes.
stuff.
The JFK assassination, the
Yeah.
9/11,
So
there's
many things.
a bunch of
I
things.
mean, P. Diddy, all of this stuff. I mean,
Yes.
and then Epstein was, how long was that? Yeah, that was
I
only
was
a couple of
saying,
years ago too,
yep,
right? So, and that's a very similar subject. For some reason, I feel like, not to change the subject, but I do feel like this P. Diddy thing that's happening right now is actually going to be way more powerful and way more of a ripple effect than the Epstein thing. It's just crazy how like insane all of that Epstein stuff was, and yet not a lot changed. I mean, a little bit did, but my hope is that this whole thing happening with P. Diddy right now is really going to make some major waves and changes in the average human's perception of who we've all idolized for so many years.
totally, totally, because
Um,
Epstein was not nobody, people didn't know who he was.
yeah, that's
Sort
true.
of this
And then
incident.
it's like the funny thing too is like, we as a millennial, like we all grew up with him.
Uh,
And, he, and as a celebrity too, it's
yes,
such a different,
yes.
yeah, such a different scenario.
Mhm.
And not only that, but there's obviously a lot of other celebrities and
I haven't
notable
even been
people
tracking it yet,
who
but I'm sure that
they haven't quite released money details yet. I don't know when his actual court date um is, but there's a long, long, long list of victims who
yeah.
have come out. I think I read somewhere, and obviously, again, Jupiter and Gemini information overload, so don't quote me exactly on this, but I did read somewhere that there were 3,000 people had come forward. Right now, they've got about 120 victims that they are focusing on with like the most, intense cases and scenarios, I guess. But it's going to be heavy and interesting. And talk about, yeah, Pluto stirring up that energy. Literally, it's like this giant excavator just digging up all of the skeletons in our closet right now.
Well said.
Um,
I agree.
so that's one aspect.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was going to mention too is the fact that not only Pluto with this big energy that it has, the transformation and the excavation, it's in Capricorn, which
Yes.
is like also so interesting. So it's almost like this double whammy of like, obviously Capricorn is like structure and like all of the systems
Yes.
that
The
we
social
rely
structure.
on
Yes.
all the time in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
And so it's like completely exposing what needs to change in all of these traditional systems, old world to this point,
Yeah.
like systems that need improvement, which clearly it's almost like, I almost want to say like in literally every sector of
Yes.
our life,
Yes.
if you looked at like daily life as like a zodiac, you've got like your financial, you've got your like health and wellness, you've got all of those things. It's like every single theme needs major improvements, major transformation, and like that is what we are seeing. That is Pluto making it, in Capricorn, making its big giant transformational cycle right now. And this is the last hurrah, as it's the last how many weeks left,
Another
in about
6 weeks.
6 weeks or
20.
so.
Yeah. 6 weeks.
6 weeks left in Capricorn in our lifetimes as we know it, unless we're going to live to be like, hundreds
No,
and hundreds of
why
years
not like
old. But yeah,
no, yeah.
it's just it's
Yeah.
we're feeling it. Like that is everything that we are seeing on a collective scale right now. It is like, so again, back to using astrology as this tool to help us navigate through these rough waters. It
Yeah.
at least, can hopefully help the average person who might not have a clue, but maybe they're listening to this and they're like, okay, so it's not just me, again, I'm not crazy. The world isn't maybe coming to an end,
Yes.
but life as we know it
It's changed.
is actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Well,
is. I mean,
some
it's
of the
like the
past.
closing of a chapter, just like what you said. It's like the closing of a cycle and starting of a new one. And it's like, how long is it going to take us to build this new cycle and form of structure? I don't know. But the interesting thing is like, again, we're going into Aquarius with Pluto. So it's like, what does Aquarius look like as these social structures? You know,
So
it's,
let me jump in here. First
yeah,
of all, that
sorry, I've
was
been
great.
going
You
on a tangent,
just
but
did it. That was like that was another answer to my initial question of like, the first thing was just sort of a general thing about what are transits good for. That was that you've been really paying attention and tuning in, and that was great. Thank you. And it is
yeah.
different. We all have different kind of approaches to that. One of the
Mm-hmm,
differences between you and I is you have Venus and Neptune in
mm-hmm,
Capricorn. I
mm-hmm.
have Saturn. I have Jupiter too. So my Jupiter is more like your Venus, but my Saturn and your Neptune are different in their orientation. So
Yeah.
me, Saturn in Capricorn means I'm kind of in the position of being in some way responsible for some of the,
Yeah.
like I was president of a company and I'm kind of now I'm doing contracts. And so for
Mm-hmm,
me
mm-hmm.
that, and I had my
It was like
Saturn.
a familiar kind
Yes,
of feeling. Yeah,
right. So I experienced a lot of that uh,
absolutely. Structure.
structural change in my
Yeah.
viewpoint over the last 4 years was very
Yeah.
market for me. I had to
Mm-hmm,
orient myself. So,
mm-hmm.
but the thing I wanted to bring up on with the United States is that we are on, when you think about it, we're on the anniversary of our war of independence.
Oh, right. Of course.
So that the big thing is
How
that
could
we
we
hit a
forget?
certain point we're like, we don't like that they're taxing us. We don't like that they're the way they're handling us.
The,
Screw
or the
you.
money that they're
They're
what they're
taking
doing
from
with our
us.
tax money. Yeah.
Right. We want to be on our own. So
Hmm.
one of the things of in a way, the karma of throwing off British rule is, first of all,
Hmm.
it was a war. It was a, a fight for our independence. And
Yep.
it was kind of a rejection of values or
That,
something that was
yeah.
happening that
In the
we,
old world at that point in time too, the
yeah,
old structures,
the
which is
old
so
structure. We're saying
interesting.
we need
Yeah.
something new. We're gonna do
And
that. So in a way,
sorry, really, really super, super fast. What I should know this. What sign was Pluto in before that? It was,
Sagittarius.
oh, God, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it would be so we're
Hmm.
this is how I do mundane astrology. I love that you're thinking this way.
Yeah.
Like if it was, 1776 was at the end of Capricorn, that
Mm-hmm.
means that the 17 is about we're about 13 years, so it'd be about 1763 would be when it went into Capricorn.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
Sagittarian period would be about 1750 to 1763, roughly
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that point in Pluto's cycle would be
Yeah.
Pluto in Sagittarius. And it
Hmm.
would be great. And that's what I do when I go back and study like the thing I showed you in
Yeah.
Astrocosmos. I think that's one of the best ways to learn astrology is
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost like the learning what the signs are and their energy is helps you to recognize it. But then when you study what
Mm-hmm.
is happening at the time,
Mm-hmm.
that's the way to learn what the signs are, is how
Mm-hmm.
they play out in the collective or in our
Mm-hmm.
individual lives and so on.
Yeah.
So anyway, just to mention your question about respond to your question about Pluto in Aquarius.
Right. Yeah.
Pluto in Aquarius, and I think I said this to you before, was when we wrote the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So the
Which had great intentions,
yeah, we were right, but
you
which
know,
what I'm saying
at
is
that
that
time. Right.
exactly. The first part is like, get out of here. We're fighting a war. We don't like you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Saturn and Capricorn, like throwing off the old structure. But then
Mm-hmm.
it was 1791 when the Constitution got ratified, which is 15 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So the Pluto into Aquarius part is where we get finished with like destroying, transforming the old way of doing things. And
Mm-hmm.
then we start in earnest trying to think about how would we like to do things? What's a
Mm-hmm.
good way to do things?
Mm-hmm.
What's an enlightened way? What makes sense? How can we stop having this Cold War bullshit and fighting the old wars that are really bad for everybody
Yeah.
and start to build like a world culture that will be more synergistic and so on. So
Mm-hmm.
that my answer to Pluto in Aquarius is it's on the way to like a new world order, which is of course what Davos and the WEF are kind of trying to come up with a Capricorn version of that. Like we'll
Mm-hmm.
control it, we'll do it our way. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about the real version, which is every country participating and a real sense of preserving the culture and the autonomy of each country and allowing everybody to participate and having it not be based on pure military power and
Mm-hmm.
exploitation of resources and the earth,
Mm-hmm.
and the people, and so on and so forth. So at least that's a good.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. I mean, yeah, Aquarius is an interesting one. I feel like that's like one of the more mysterious signs to me.
Yeah,
But I mean, the one thing I do know that I feel like a lot of astrologers do repeat about it is that it's as much as it's like an individualistic type of sign, it wants what's better for the whole. It wants
I
what's
would say
best
it's
for the
not.
collective, you know?
It's the opposite of Leo is the most individualistic sign.
Mm.
We,
Maybe it's just like, I don't know, it's like
Aquarius
unique or something. It's
it recognizes that individuals have a role, but it's by far the
okay. The
collective sign,
most community. Okay.
community, collective.
It's amazing. Well, and it's like, in a lot of again, just kind of rhetoric about how to create a sustainable futures. Like you hear a lot of people talking about, going back to like regenerative farming and like community, like local, obviously farming, like, that's obviously like, again, our food system needs
Yes,
such a restructuring. It's unbelievable. But like, yeah, local, like everything, local, just resources. So it's like, how do you build that? It's about a strong community,
yes,
it's about supporting your community. It's about what, we're all bringing to the table and serving for the better of the collective, instead of this like top down, everybody just working their jobs to pay their own bills, to pay their own food on the table. It's like, how can we just all work in, cohesiveness together? That's just,
yes.
we need that more than ever together. Then
For
yeah.
me, I think one of the essential elements of that is to build communities from
Mhm.
at a grassroots level, as you're
Yep.
saying, like the
Yeah.
local.
Oh, for
So
sure.
the community, because the virtualization and the technological thing makes it
Mhm.
so that we can have an unlimited number of sort of virtual communities, but
Mhm.
we really
Mhm.
need the smaller communities that have more cohesion, more
Mhm.
trust, more
Mhm.
collaboration, so that the bigger community can be more stable. The problem now
Mhm.
is we have this very fragmented local communities, and then the big one, which is the internet and things like blockchain, even though they have promise for decentralization, they're still
Mhm.
built on the idea of zero trust.
Mhm.
Something I was
Mhm.
talking about with a friend because I'm doing some programming stuff. The
Mhm.
blockchain is that's the whole idea. Is it not?
Mhm.
It's anonymous. There's
Mhm.
no, you don't, it doesn't,
Yeah, it's
does
a
it
really
not,
interesting. Well,
not,
it feels very like
yeah.
it feels very Pluto and Aquarius, right? Like it's like attempting to, I don't know. Yeah, serve the
We have
collective,
to
but it's
start
like
with
oh,
who do we
is there?
trust? Trust is, in God we trust is on the
Yeah,
dollar.
yeah, yeah. Hmm.
Which people do I trust, or how can I
Right, right.
build relationships of trust?
But
That's
at the same time, it's like that is, and I'm definitely not a blockchain chain or a crypto expert,
yeah.
but the whole idea is at like it's this equal community. I'm gonna butcher this. Why am I even trying?
Oh no, go ahead.
But you know what I'm trying to say?
I
It's like
think so, but go
we're
ahead.
all held accountable equally in a sense, where it's not like there's one thing at the top that's overseeing everything. It's like
Yes.
we are all equally a part of this. So why do we want to, fuck this up if we're all going to lose out? I don't know. Maybe help me
No, I think that the
put this into
I
words,
was
but isn't
actually
that the
just looking
idea?
for a date. I was looking for a date on a different topic. So okay.
Oh, sorry.
So
Okay.
I agree with you that the idea behind blockchain is that
Hmm.
there's not decentralization is a primary idea, and the idea
Hmm.
of Pluto and Capricorn. By the way, Satoshi's white paper, which started blockchain, which started cryptocurrency, came out in 2008 when Pluto went.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So it was
Interesting.
very
Okay. Okay.
connected with that. And it's so the idea of decentralization, because Capricorn on some level is all about centralization, some
Hmm.
uber bureaucracy, which is controlling everything. And Pluto comes in and says, we need to build a way
Shake
to
this up. Yeah.
shake it up, that these
Mhm.
can't be, that the corporations and the big governments can't completely control everything. So that's the
Yeah.
idea behind it. But
Hmm.
the aquarium part is like, okay, the idea is good. Just like the even the WEF has some good ideas. They're saying like you don't have to own stuff. We'll provide it for you. Or there's some really, ideas that could really be good, just not the way you're talking about,
Yeah. Yeah.
not engineered by
Talk
you.
about trust. Yeah.
Yeah, trust, exactly. So the key is that with the internet, and this is one because I've been involved in solutions on this. It's that it's too the problem with blockchain and cryptocurrency, or especially blockchain, is that it's theoretically decentralized, but the only way to know what's really happening with blockchain is to
Hmm.
hire a super smart computer programmer who's going to tell you and run some program that's going to go get this and go get that and so on.
Hmm.
The fact is we need reality. We need our food
Yeah.
system to be decentralized. We need our
Hmm. Hmm.
friends and our community and the ability to be resilient in the face of natural
Hmm.
disasters to be decentralized. The idea of that the decentralization is going to be all on these computers that are like thousands of computers recording the transaction.
Right. And then it's like again, the environmental impact of all of
A
that
huge
energy
environmental impact. So
is
it's
like
like you could
yeah.
say we burst the idea of
Mm-hmm.
decentralization through blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
Now we need a more sustainable, version of it that makes sense in the context.
Absolutely. It's like a stepping stone. I don't know. Yeah. It's
So
definitely a step in the right direction, I think. We're
yes,
getting somewhere. At least we're making movement, you know. That and that's again, that's just what this is all about. It's that step by step transformation.
yes, yes.
So it's
So
great.
what I was looking up is it occurred to me while you were talking before, Mars is
Mm-hmm.
Cancer right now, and
Mm-hmm.
it's in about 18 degrees. It just went opposite my Saturn, and
Yeah.
it is
It's an
going to be
interesting one.
opposite Pluto before Pluto goes back in Aquarius. It's
Oh,
in
wow. Okay.
29, and Mars
Yeah.
Mars is
And
going to go opposite at the end
mm-hmm.
of this month. So I just looked it up because I was curious. And then it's Mars is going to go retrograde after that.
Yeah. Yep.
But I
So
was
much retrograde action right now or
yeah,
soon. Also, I think literally on election day too, not to jump ahead to
yes,
November, but there is also like a couple of things happening. Let me just look it up really quick. Literally on November 3rd. Let me just find it. Oh yeah, it's literally on November 3rd, what you were just talking about, where
Mars
Mars
opposite
Mars
Pluto.
is opposite
Yeah,
Pluto, which is
November 3rd. We
insane.
came to it at the same time.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
So that's just crazy
yeah.
on election day.
On election day,
Um,
Mars is going retrograde at like 6 Leo, about, probably a week or two after that. And so
hmm,
what I want to know is, so it's going to come back to that point,
hmm,
like probably before the election
come
gets actually decided.
decided and so
No,
it's gonna come right back opposite Pluto again,
yes,
like a couple days after the election
not
or
a couple,
so, or
not a
like
couple
not
of
like a
days, but
couple
a
weeks.
couple of weeks. Yeah, hold on.
Weeks.
It's when Pluto
Holy
is
moly.
already in
Okay.
Aquarius.
So maybe we should just talk about that for a minute again
Yeah,
to just kind of
yeah,
forewarn anyone who happens to be listening to this.
yes. So here it
Brace
is.
yourselves. Maybe leave the
Right.
country. No, I'm just kidding. That's kind of what I want to do, but also,
Holy, I
I
gotta.
don't know.
Okay.
So Mars.
Here it is.
Mars
Here
is
it
the
is.
warrior.
January 3rd. On January 3rd,
Okay.
Mars, by this time, Pluto's already in Aquarius in 1 degree.
Right? Oh
Mars
my
will have
God.
gone into Mars went into Leo, and then it went retrograde the day that it turns retrograde. And I have this written because I just did it. It goes retrograde on December 7th. So we're just going out in the future. So
Mars. Mars.
Mars goes opposite Pluto on November
Yeah.
3rd. Then it goes into Leo. On December 7th, it goes retrograde. And on January, what did I just say? January 3rd, also just like November 3rd, it now Pluto's already gone into Aquarius. It goes opposite Pluto again on January 3rd, still before the
Holy cow.
so I would say that January 3rd is that's the point in time where we're probably maybe at that point
Another January 6th all over
not
again.
January 6th, but we're at least trying to come to a decision about the election
Hmm.
results by that time. If not, obviously
Yeah.
we don't like it if it was right
Yeah.
away, but
So, for anyone who doesn't know, I do want to just kind of
yeah,
bring this down a little bit for
great.
anyone who doesn't speak this first
Yeah,
language
that's
or
right.
even second language as astrology. Mars is the planet of war, action, I mean,
Direction.
it like anything, it's got its positives and its negatives.
Yeah,
The good part is it does make things happen. It moves momentum forward.
yes,
It's very action oriented. It's
yeah,
like the male masculine, more masculine sign.
yes,
Um, but it also has the shadow side of war.
yes.
So it's going to bring up some aggression, which are we not already feeling like that?
Yeah, we are already.
But it's an interesting combo being in the sign of Cancer, right?
Yes.
Like, how interesting
Well,
is that? So, what is your
this is
thought?
what
What
I
are your
well,
thoughts on this?
well, first of all, I want to bring up two things. First of
Yeah.
all, remember that you're the most hidden thing in your birth chart, and I know we're talking about the general thing, but you
Yeah.
have a Mars Pluto conjunction in your birth chart. Just
Yeah. Oh, I know. Super
yeah.
fun.
Well, I'm
Super
just
fun.
saying, like we didn't.
I'm just moving and transforming all the time, and it's not easy. It's just, mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm,
also you have Mars Pluto in water sign, so that's what
is
Mars,
in Scorpio. Yeah.
right? So
Likes to go deep.
so the good part about the difference between the November 3rd and the January 3rd Mars opposite Pluto is
Mm-hmm.
by January 3rd Mars will be in Leo opposite Pluto. So the thing about the Mars in
Okay.
Cancer one is that that's more of this
That's the one
overwhelming
coming up.
emotional thing that's happening.
Yes. Right.
Kind of like
Everybody's
everybody's
emotions are
like,
going to
what
be
did you
out on the
say?
table,
Yeah. So
but
ideally,
aggressive.
goes back into Leo and Pluto's already in Aquarius, is time for one or the other of the candidates or the people in general to kind of be a little more kind of like in the good sense of Leo, like have some dignity and some
Yeah. Courage. Yeah.
generosity.
Confidence. Is that a good thing? There's plenty of that already. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'm
Okay.
hoping I'm looking,
Is
trying to
Mars,
look for the bright side.
how every sign, kind of favor, or sorry, every planet favors being in a sign
Yes,
versus not. It does Mars, I mean, because yeah, is
will vary.
Mars
Yeah.
kind of happy in Leo?
Oh, yeah, I'd say Mars is more comfortable in any fire sign for sure,
That's what I was thinking.
and least comfortable.
But yeah, back to Cancer, it is like probably that's probably where it, it's like putting a cat in water.
Yeah.
It's like, get me out here. And not to mention Cancer is like also the more feminine sign out
Yes.
of all too, ruled by the moon. It's again, like what you said, emotions and
Yes.
um
And
nurturing and whatnot, but emotional.
the
So
quote,
yeah, Mars and Cancer.
hell hath no fury like a woman scorned was a Shakespeare quote.
Oh,
So
it's beautiful.
basically that's speaking about the fact that when like your mother or when a woman gets mad, like men are more
Yeah.
used to being Marsy, like that's part of the
Yeah.
archetype. So
But
when a
yeah,
woman gets mad, it can
steer
really
clear.
have
Yeah. Watch out.
Polly. Yeah.
So yeah. So wait, when is that again? Sorry. When does Mars
November
go into?
3rd is the
Okay. Oh, yeah, November. How could I forget? November 3rd, no big deal. It's almost like the gods are just fucking with
yeah,
us. They're like, haha, you think this has been
yeah,
wild? Just
yeah,
wait for this.
yeah.
Um,
It is.
so again, this is all coming back to our main point right in the beginning is
Yeah,
like using this as just a way to help navigate this upcoming storm,
yeah.
which we are literally, it's October 8th today, and we're about to experience, not we, luckily, but Florida is about to experience one of the most intense hurricanes in all of history. So,
Yes.
yeah, brace ourselves. I
Yeah,
mean,
you hear the governor of Florida said the
the
mayor,
mayor of Tampa said, "Get the heck out of here."
or you
She,
will die. She literally said that, and
yeah,
like
that's,
she
I mean,
obviously she's trying to get people to pay attention. Like, don't just think this is going to be fine, but
it's
still, that
it's just
yeah,
mine. It's, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
My heart goes out to anyone who, and yeah, still all of North Carolina. Like,
Well, as we were talking about the other day, North Carolina has really turned into, to some extent, a good story about how people have come together.
yeah, they're not out of the trenches yet,
Oh,
though.
I
I
get
mean,
it,
they're
but I'm just
definitely still,
yeah,
but yeah, we are seeing, and this is again, this is it's like, how do I say this without offending anybody? But it's like maybe this is a blessing in disguise where again, these communities will be in the end so much more prepared and experienced for anything. And not even just like climate stuff, but knowing how to work together as a community, which is just what we were just talking about, this Aquarian energy.
yeah, I agree.
It's
And
like,
part of it is like because I lived through, and I mean we've all lived through, but I lived through and there was like the no nukes movement, and then
Hmm.
a lot of what the liberal side of things has been about is trying to foresee what's going to happen and say, hey, if we change, it won't be as bad. And
Hmm.
that has merit to it. But in many cases, and especially in the United States, we don't particularly like, we're not going to change until things really are upon us.
It's like
There's
we
no,
literally just
that's
need to
our
be like
that's
taken
our
by the shoulders and like just literally shaken up to the point where everybody starts to really realize all of this,
So I agree with you in that sense. Like us talking about,
unfortunately.
hey, community is a good idea or it's going to be important.
Hmm.
When everything gets shaken up, you
Hmm.
come to understand what community is, because now
Hmm.
it's like, is this person who maybe I was, a year ago or 6 months ago, I was arguing about their politics. Now is the person that I'm depending on for some food or
Yeah.
place to live. It
It's like
brings
what is really showing up in real life for you physically, instead of just this like out there, outside of us theoretical argument
this.
that is, I don't know, perfectly planned to keep us arguing. I feel like, I don't know,
That is, I
but
agree. So I think that's been well documented that it's sort of
yeah,
a strategy of the military industrial complex to keep people on
that
edge or
absolutely.
stabilized enough so that there
Hmm.
can be a certain amount of number one control. But that's also what wars are about, is keeping
Hmm.
people like you. It's the old mafia strategy. You need me because I'm going to protect you.
Yeah.
That's, the people that would attack you, you got to
Hmm.
pay me for that. So
Hmm.
there is definitely.
Genius. Works really great. So good on them. Oh boy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so let's before we're about to wind up, I'll let you get
Mhm.
out early so you don't have to take it to the last minute.
No worries. Yeah.
But on the issue of, I think that this is for where I'd like to pick up with you again. And I
Mm.
appreciate, thank you. I get a lot out of like your focus, and I think it is also the good part about the age difference. Like you're younger, is that when you're younger, you actually, in some sense, care more about what's happening because
Current
you
events.
live
Yeah.
in it. And I'm not saying I don't care, but
Millennial.
there is a thing when you've come through more experience and you kind of like, yeah, it could work, it's going to work. The whole thing about, yeah, it'll work out one way or the other, is a little bit of an older person's perspective, because they have seen
You've
it,
already lived through
they
like
lived
a
through it. They're
lot of
like, I
your
don't have
own.
to, yeah, it's, well, so what? Because not either way, I'm going to be
Hmm.
okay. Versus, especially when you have a young kid. I know when it felt to me like when Zach was 3, and
Hmm.
I was like, everything was
Everything
personal.
makes a huge, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a huge
because your
effect
kid
on your
has to
life.
go live in that stuff. You
Hmm.
care a lot about it. So I really appreciate the exercise of like, how do we look at these things? And I think it is the thing about, I don't think that this conversation is just kind of a start, but I'd
Hmm.
like to pick that up in our next one, which is, how does knowing astrological stuff. The first thing is knowing that there's some reason to things. There's
Hmm.
something that makes sense about it, that isn't
Hmm.
just holy shit, everything's going up in flames.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
then I think there's a secondary thing about like, what can we learn from history or from these
Absolutely.
archetypes that will help us on a daily basis to navigate this stuff. So
Hmm.
I would
No, that's a huge point. Yeah, which we definitely could have probably spent more time talking about. But
we
yeah, this is
can't do
great.
it all in one session.
Yeah, for sure.
I have this, did I tell you I have this phrase, CPS is my idea which is instead of GPS, which is the cosmic positioning system. So
Oh, cool. Yeah,
it's like, how can we
I
use the
like
fact
that.
that we kind of understand where we are in the cycles to help us to navigate, as you say, to know like what should my reaction be. And of
Hmm.
course, one of the most fundamental principles of astrology is that the CPS applies to where you are. So
Hmm.
when we're talking about these big transits and these big movements, we really have to, and this is where what I said at the beginning is, we really have to go to how does it affect you? How does it affect me? So
Hmm.
I was affected by Pluto and Capricorn because it crossed my Saturn, and it was
Hmm.
2020. It was really intense. Your effect, I mean, at some point, Pluto will be going opposite to your moon in Leo, and
Hmm.
now you're having Saturn square. So
Hmm.
understanding those kinds of things, and that's part of the
Hmm.
work of
Hmm.
doing astrocosmos, is so that people can get that information about what are the ones that are really active in your situation right now.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
as important as the overall big picture.
Hmm. Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Awesome.
Great, Lee. That was
Sweet.
fun. All right.
Yeah, right on.
See you
Thank
soon.
you.